first question is, if the economic downturn lasts longer than expected, what measures would you propose to achieve a balanced budget?
First, we already have a balanced budget. We fortunately anticipated a few years ago that we were going to find ourselves in an economic downturn. So during year one, we had to go back and make some changes mid-year, but we've basically been operating on a balanced budget since then. We are continuing to anticipate that the economy is not going to turn around as quickly as others would like it to. You know, I don't know if anybody saw the news a couple weeks ago where they said the recession was over a year ago. I'm not sure what country they're living in, but they're certainly not living here. Fortunately, we are in a better situation by having done some planning and anticipating this kind of economic downturn than most of the other jurisdictions in the region. We are ongoing with negotiations with the labor organizations and the rest of the employees at the city staff level. We are looking with consolidated departments. We are looking for ways to cut the city's expenses so that we don't have to make any further job cuts and that we can continue to provide all of the services that the residents of Folsom have come to expect. In my opinion, the council has done a very good job at trying to anticipate those needs, and that is ongoing as we continue to negotiate with the labor groups at the city and encourage employees and ourselves to find ways to reduce expenses. We're continuing to deal with the existing businesses in town, find out ways that we can help them to improve their business. We are in constant communication with FedCorp and the Chamber and potential new businesses coming to Folsom to find out how we can help them locate here and how we can retain the existing businesses that we have. The Chamber and myself and a lot of the people that have lived in Folsom for a long time also understand that where we have discretionary spending, we need to spend our tax dollars in Folsom.
Carrie brings a good point, and that's really what the city of Folsom's done for probably the better part of 14 years is we don't just do one-year forecasting. We actually started back in '96. We started doing 2, 5, 10, and 20-year forecasting. And that actually has brought us to the point where we can honestly say with statistical proof, we had the lowest unemployment rate in the entire state of California. We're less than half of what this region is. We're at 5 5/8 unemployment rate. We're one of the few jurisdictions that our sales tax actually increased in the second calendar quarter of this year. Nobody else can say that. And we're one of the few, we have the least foreclosures in the state, and we also have one of the few property tax bases that actually hasn't really gone down. So that's huge, and that's not done by guessing. That's by long-term forecasting and planning. We do a lot of public-private partnerships. One that was mentioned by Carrie is FedCorp, that stands for Folsom Economic Development Corporation. I'm one of the founding members and current director of that organization, and that's taking the private business with government and predicting what they're seeing on the private side and how we can implement some of those ideas on the public side. In addition to that, and something was mentioned about business, we showcase business once a month at city council meetings. We also have a regular business walk. The next one's coming on October 21st. So the members of the Chamber of Commerce will go out citywide and actually just talk to the business and see what they need. We've also done restructuring of our fee schedule, our permitting process, our tenant improvement process, all restructured the entire city government to be in position that if the economy continues to do what it's doing, we're still positioned extremely well to use every single of our penny wisely and still be able to provide the essential services that Folsom has not only demanded but enjoys, which is our police and our fire and our recreation programs at the highest levels. And I can say those levels are still being presented today the same as they were in 2005. Thank you.
It's an exercise in matching expenses with revenue. And as been previously mentioned, we work through a forecast that tries to build some of these sorry scenarios that we're dealing with where, okay, what do we need to prepare to do? And some examples of what we have done to date are reorganizations at City Hall. Our employee base for the city of Folsom has gone from roughly 570 folks down to about 450. And that's, again, a reaction to making sure that with no new taxes, we match revenues or expenses with revenues. If this the question is if this economic downturn continues, and we kind of mentioned a little bit tongue-in-cheek where even is the new up. If we could just get a year where we had steady revenue. Instead of something dropping, we were doing cartwheels. So Steve mentioned some of the brighter picture where we have seen some things occur in our revenue picture that might give us a sense of stabilization. But in preparation for that, what we've done and insisted is maintaining our city reserve right now is $7 million. It used to be about 12 million. We chewed into that a little bit just to soften the blow, keeping the service levels to the city at a rate that was acceptable. But as we've done that, we've really set the limit at the $7 million reserve. So we have everything aligned. The last thing I'll mention is our employee groups in this community. Everyone needs to know is through the bargaining process, we've worked at adjusting compensation levels. They don't always like that, but it has been a very collaborative effort, and I think the community needs to understand that they're as interested in making sure that the service levels in this community remain at the very high standards that we're accustomed to.
As other candidates have mentioned, I think it's important to increase and generate more revenue for Folsom. So I'd like to look into some creative and innovative options involving the business community, small businesses, and other businesses, having forums and dialogues basically to see what can the city do to help you. Is it to streamline the way that we do permits or licenses? Is it the fees that's hampering it? Can we work with the Association of Realtors or other landlords and incentivize and offer incentives, maybe reduce the rent per square foot for rental space, for retail space? So that would be one option, is to try and increase the revenue. I think the other thing that we can do is worst case scenario, if we need to make decisions about choices, is come up with a list of priorities, but it should not be a unilateral list. It should be a list that is bounced back and forth between residents and between the city council that says, okay, everybody agrees that these are the top 4 or 5 list of things that we cannot absolutely change, we cannot budge on. And then, okay, what else can we do to kind of move things, either up or down from the line from where they are now? So I think the effect and the effort should be to compromise, but it should be a compromise that everyone likes. And by doing that, I think hopefully we'll stay where we are and even do better in the next few years. Thank you.
I think the economy took everyone by surprise. A lot of people weren't expecting it. I feel that to avoid being hit by any future events that may happen in this country, we need to expand the forecast of our budget and look at other ways to bringing in more revenue for the city, so that it doesn't hurt any of the city services that we need and that the residents are used to. So definitely expanding and planning, doing more studies, and so that we can be as prepared as possible in case something like this was to happen again. We know exactly what to do.
The issue that I see before us is not so much one of keeping the budget balanced, but how we react when the economy does turn around. I think that the council has actually done a fine job of reacting to the situation, and barring some, or with the exception of people losing some measure of their benefits and salary, which is frustrating no matter what business you're in. Many of us in this room have probably experienced that over the last couple of years. I think that the deliberate way that the council has found a way to balance the budget, I think is perfectly acceptable to me. My issue and my concern is that over the long haul, how we size the reserve fund, and I have to poke a little fun at you guys. It somehow gained $1 million since Saturday. It's 6 or 7, maybe around 50. But in the instance when finally the economy does turn around, what I hope is that Folsom doesn't surface and take a giant gasp of air and push our city budget up back into the stratosphere like it was several years ago. We need to make sure that that budget grows at a measured pace and in line with how our population is growing, rather than doing seesawing like it's done over the last 10 years. So with that, you'll hear me say long-term planning over and over again. this is a spot where we need to take great care when we do have revenue growth.